Miss Jackson?
Yes.
How can you tell between someone who is religious and someone who is a fanatic?
Fanatics have a tendency to want to force others to believe what they believe.
Don't you want us to believe what you're teaching?
My goal is to teach you the truth, nothing else.
Have you ever read the Bible?
I tend to focus my studies on less biased material.
I just started reading it. Did you know that by believing in Jesus, we could do the things that he did? Even greater things.
Hard or hardly working, God?
Welcome back to another episode of Boys Bible Study. It's us, your favorite boys.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. Man, we got a real one today, boys. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that was one of the best movies I've seen in a long time.
Seriously, I was so pleasantly surprised. And, you know, we're pretty desensitized to this at this point.
Yeah.
And we've watched so many, and I just feel that cinephile's delight when something new comes our way, and it stops us in our tracks. It really stuns us.
Things happened in it that have just been on my bucket list of things I hope happens in a movie at some point.
I just want you to understand that I have seen a man's leg grow back.
Yeah.
In probably the only instance of like body horror that at least I've ever seen in a Christian movie.
Yeah, he was
unless it's
yelling
like
in
the
pain.
Passion of the Christ.
Yes.
But this is like transformation.
So this movie's, I believe,
2018.
It was a 2018 film.
Yeah,
very
I looked
recent. Do we have an IMDb up or anything? I want to.
It is on IMDb. I looked it up because there were some parallels to Let There Be Light. 2018 was the year of fantastic Christian movies. You had Let There Be Light. You had God's Not Dead 3. You had I Believe.
The Trump Prophecy.
Truly, we're living in a renaissance of Christian media, the likes of which hasn't been known before.
Not since the time of Christ have Christian movies been this good.
Not since 2017 years ago, in year zero, when Jesus walked the earth, were Christian movies this good. Slight correction, I believe, is 2017.
Okay.
Ahead of its time.
Yeah. Okay.
Time.
All right. I was a little off. But it came out the same years as Let There Be Light.
Certainly. And the directors were, I'm assuming, a married couple. Jurgen and Stacy Paretsky.
They're brother and sister, but they are married.
No.
That was the directing team. Jurgen Paretsky, I'm sure I'm pronouncing his name wrong, was also a writer.
Also works a lot in video games. I looked him up, and he does a lot of voice acting for like World War II video games.
That's interesting. And you said as you were researching it that you found some other Christian movie alum who also work in games, like that one guy who's the voice in Overwatch.
Oh yeah, well he was in Amerigeddon. That's not a Christian movie.
Right.
That's
just like a
that's an
conservative
unrelated
movie.
thing. The lead actor in this movie worked on the same video games as the director.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Matt Nyquist.
that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Matt Lindquist. Yeah. So they're just like the only Christians who work in video games, as we all know. That's an industry run by Satan himself. And they banded together to make I Believe, which, very brief IMDb summary, a 9-year-old boy experiences God's power in a supernatural way.
They should have worked on Halo.
The only Christian video
Yeah.
game. The only Christian first-person shooter. But no, it's great. I mean, in its very essence, this movie is about a 9-year-old whose father is an atheist. He learns about Bible on his own through the computer, and he instantly becomes a prophet and goes around healing people.
Does a lot of
He just
Googling.
reads a sign first, right?
Oh, yeah. That was the first thing. He read a sign outside of the church.
The Scientologists didn't get to him. The Christians did. God bless.
Thank God for that. Cheers to that.
He just instantly becomes a prophet and starts bringing people to Christ, just sort of missioning to them, encouraging them to pray, and some amazing things happen. You were just alluding to the body horror segment of this, Julian.
Yeah, so he goes to church and meets Pastor Wilford Brimley,
Yes, Wilford.
actually played by Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley does star in this movie, yes.
And after talking to him for a little bit, just about how cool God is, he meets a veteran who is missing a leg. And he's sad because his wife doesn't love him anymore because it was her favorite leg. And now he doesn't have it anymore. But the thing is, it's always in the last place you look. And who does he look to in his moment of need? Finally prays to God. Finally works. Clearly been going to church for a while.
Yeah.
God doesn't give a shit until the miracle boy talks to him.
Yeah.
And then it shows a close-up of his leg, like, bulging, like his
stump leg, yeah.
His stump leg starts bulging and, like, contorting.
While he's shrieking in pain.
Yeah.
God, please make Christy happy again. Burning!
What's going on?
It's burning. My leg. It grew back.
I really want to know how they did that.
Yeah, that was actually kind of impressive.
As a
effect
fan of
this movie.
cinema.
We talked about that perhaps it was like someone's bent knee or elbow like stuck through fabric and it was like writhing around.
Yeah.
Because my first thought was that they actually had a guy who had his leg amputated do that scene, like be a stand-in.
Yeah, but it was real strange because like the bone looked like it was about to pop out of the skin.
Yeah, it was
looked
weird.
good.
It was real good.
Yeah.
It was
I think
very
we're gonna
revolting
find out that it
to
really
look at.
was. It was like a close, like when you take a close-up picture of your fingers like together, and it looks like a.
And then you jack
know
off
what.
to it.
And you
Yeah.
jack off
How
to
many
it.
takes do you think the boy had to pray to God for them to get the shot?
It was probably more than
Burning
The Shining.
daylight here. Pray harder.
Pray for more light. Pray for the golden hour.
Yeah, that's what they mean by "let there be light."
And also in the
To the
industry,
grip.
as it's known in the movie industry, the golden hour is the time when God grants miracles
Yeah, that is true.
to anyone who prays for them. Just a little industry know-how from your boys in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's called the golden shower in the porn industry.
The brief time of day when you can just get
Everyone
that
pees.
perfect piss. Yeah, when everyone's allowed to piss. But this movie was also filmed in Los Angeles too.
It was.
It's a local film.
It was
Yeah.
a local film. They showed a little Koreatown. They had little news stickers that said, Century City. How delightful is it to see your own city and film like that?
Yeah, what a
Amazing.
weird place. I think that it was shot in. I think we were talking about it's probably Orange County, because that seemed like such a weird understanding of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like
That's
clearly
true.
people who don't actually live in the city of Los Angeles, because like the people they interviewed lived in Century City. The only shots that showed Los Angeles were like skyline shots,
Yeah.
and there was like this weird, like a very heavy emphasis on the importance of local news and also how atheists run this town.
Yeah.
Which, if you live in Los Angeles, is just not true at all.
Right. There's so many churches.
Yeah.
The neighborhood I live in now, I've never had so many churches in the same neighborhood I've lived in anywhere. And I've lived a lot of places.
Yeah.
Get a migraine every time you walk out of your house from all the praying.
No!
That's how I stay so healthy.
Yeah.
I'm an ironic podcaster. I can't handle this prayer.
I have enough legs already.
That's right. Every time you go to church, you grow another leg. It's something you really have to only save for a rainy day.
Yeah. Or before a race.
True. Then you just get a little, you could say a leg up on the competition. That's what it is.
This man's been using performance enhancing prayers.
No athlete is allowed to pray before a game, or else it
That's why they
throws it
pray
off.
after they win.
Yeah. And the
Otherwise,
losers
they're
never pray.
banned.
The losers never pray.
Is that why Mark Jackson actually got fired
Yeah.
from the Warriors?
There ain't nothing in the rule book that says a three-legged guy can't play basketball.
Also, the movie opened with a murder in Long Beach, which, like, when's the last time you heard about anything happening in Long Beach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Especially like one murder.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think because it was mob related. Oh! It was the guys he met at the very end. The mob guys.
Right. It's
Wow.
it's possible.
Damn, this
there
movie's
is
good.
another thing that just brought this movie to the extra level. Like, not only were we seeing like super clean Nordic people, you know, coming to Christ in Los Angeles and like atheist newscasters duking it out, there was also a mob motif, and we are all fans here of mob-related media. I'm currently watching Sopranos for the first time, loving it. We're big Gotti fans. We're
Absolutely.
probably, you know, we'll stick up for Gotti until the day we die.
We stand for Gotti.
Yes, specifically
some of you stand for the flag. We stand for Gotti.
stand for the Sorbo, kneel for the Gotti. But and specifically, we're referring to the Gotti film. Although you got to admit, when John Gotti was in New York, it was safer.
That is true. That's what a lot of people who just showed up at the end of the movie said, despite all the evidence otherwise.
But no, that was the greatest part about I Believe, is that right when we thought we'd seen it all, they gave us the mafia motif at the end. It was just like incredible.
This was like the freaking algorithm had made a movie for us.
Yes.
This is what it would be.
Absolutely. And I mean, there was literally a woman named Carmela. Like,
Yeah.
the mafia boss's wife was named Carmela. Like, you can't do better than that.
Scott, thoughts on The Sopranos?
No thoughts. I mean, any other thoughts I had have been replaced by I Believe. I'm just imagining the mob boss's son eating breadsticks from Olive Garden and a huge piece of lasagna in his hospital bed.
Yeah. Of course, as soon as the shot mafia guy comes out of his coma, the first thing he's treated to is a big piece of lasagna.
Rub the lasagna, man. What are we gonna do?
Well, I mean, your father and I, we've been thinking of opening a restaurant or two.
Yeah, but are we gonna be safe?
Hey, that's up to the man upstairs.
Carmela, someone put out a contract on the Miracle Kid.
That's how you know it's a good
So
movie.
great.
Like, there's just nothing better than that, folks. But yeah, so these are certain elements that made the movie great. I mean, we had all your favorite Christian movie tropes. We had the perfect kid, which I love when that happens in movies.
Yeah.
I love when the kid in Christian movies has to be like perfect.
In
you
movies
know?
in general.
Ash, you said something really good about the kid earlier. You said this kid is like a walking email forward.
Yeah. He really is.
There would be dialogue where, you know, the teacher would be like, I don't want you reading the Bible. And he would be like, but aren't you supposed to be teaching us the truth? And the teacher would look at him like, I never thought of it that way before.
But the assignment was to expose religious fanaticism.
Yes, but I found out that most Christians are not fanatical enough.
What about the horrors of the Salem witch trials?
These people are obviously not following the teachings of Christ. It's not fair to judge all Christians by a few bad examples.
You do have a point. Christians have done good things for society.
Yeah.
She was fired
She was fired. They didn't
Yes.
say why.
for starting to believe the truth.
Oh, that's true.
Duh.
They don't want you
That's
teaching the
the
truth.
So, does everyone at school think I'm crazy?
Pretty much, except for Miss Jackson. She got fired.
I would like to talk about the dueling atheist newscasters
Yes.
for a little bit.
Oh my
'cause
God.
that was pretty funny. The father of the Miracle Boy, as he's known to be, is atheist newscaster number 1, and he is in like a ratings battle or something with a news anchor from another station who is actually referred to as his nemesis in sincerity.
The news stations are the protagonist movie station is KLA and the opposing station is KCLA.
it is a miracle in itself that as soon as the news stations start reporting about a man growing his leg back, especially a veteran in America, growing his leg back through the power of prayer, there is like no coverage outside of Los Angeles, and nobody goes to the church to check it out.
Yeah.
For like weeks.
Yeah, I thought that was amazing. Just to back up a little bit, what sets up the news anchor drama is that, you know, once these miracles start getting reported around town, they start to notice that one boy, the protagonist of our movie, seems to be the reason that all these people are getting healed. You know, his prayers. And they start identifying him as the mystery boy. And both competing stations in Los Angeles are looking for the identity of the mystery boy. And of course, that turns out to be none other than the son of the newscaster.
Atheist newscaster number 1.
Right.
But the other newscaster isn't really an atheist. He's like an active agent of the devil.
Right. He's sort of portrayed, it's hinted that the devil, who's portrayed in this movie as a very pale man who sort of just checks in with him from time to time.
He's a powder.
It's a powder.
Powders walk among us.
A powder type person seems to run the media industry because, as we all know, atheists run the news.
Yes.
And they're trying to inhibit Christian messages from getting across.
Uh-huh.
I love that in the face of, like, it's not as if every local news channel in this country is run by Sinclair Broadcasting. Like,
that would be so happy to have a story like a proven miracle.
Oh my
It'd
God.
be like the greatest thing to ever happen to local
everyone
news.
would cover that too.
No, straight up, there's this one miracle happened. A guy regrows his entire leg, and
They were also flippant.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, miracles happen all the time. Read the Bible. Comes as no surprise to me.
yeah.
Maybe if you read the book before the movie, you wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe if you read the manga.
He does get the Bible instead of comic books at the comic book shop.
That was a fun moment at the bookstore when he's getting the Bible. He talks to that guy, Ivan, the bookseller, who is introduced for some reason as a recurring character in this movie.
Hello, Brian. I saved this one just for you.
Thanks, Ivan, but do you have a Bible instead?
Well, he reveals his identity.
Right. He ends up being the one who reveals the identity of the mystery boy as the newscasters are picking up the trail, trying to find answers of who's causing all these miracles.
All of America wants to know what this boy's name is, how old he is, where he lives, where he goes to school. All info that is totally morally okay to broadcast on the news.
Yes. We must dox this boy in the name of Christ.
Pray to God that you will swat my enemies.
Job was famously the first person ever swatted in
On
the
stream.
Bible. Yeah, on stream.
While being streamed. I think we should talk about the little girl getting shot in the stomach.
Oh, that was
my
awesome.
God, I forgot about that. So much good shit happened in this movie that I completely forgot that there was a 9-year-old girl just shot in the stomach.
Yeah.
To set the scene, there's a very climactic moment toward the end of the movie where all has been revealed. The mystery boy, our protagonist, I think his name is what? Brian. He starts hanging around with this girl at school, and of course, this ends up being the daughter of the nemesis newscaster, the one who's also trying to break the story.
Mm-hmm.
But they start hanging out at the same time. Some other members of the mob put a hit out on the boy. I didn't really understand that part.
Something like that.
Because the boy helped heal one of the mafia members' sons, who's the guy we talked about earlier, he was eating lasagna in the hospital room.
Yeah. It was the son of Tom Sizemore.
Yeah, that was Tom Sizemore.
We forgot to mention that Tom Sizemore is also in this movie. But he only does Christian movies now, so it's not as surprising.
Sure.
As Wilford Brimley, who I haven't heard of since 1989.
Toward the end of the movie, they're in a parking garage. They're all going to, everything seems to be resolved. They're all together going to take a trip to the church. But then someone runs up on the family and aims a gun, I think trying to kill Brian, right?
Yeah.
Is that the point?
I wasn't clear on that.
I was not clear on that.
I kind of zoned out.
You know what?
To be honest.
I appreciate movies that allow ambiguity. You know, a lot of people are afraid of ambiguity nowadays. Movies have to hold your hand through everything. Not this movie. This is a pure piece of art cinema. I really appreciate it for that reason.
This is not one of those movies that you see nowadays where after a scene, the characters will turn to the camera and explain to you what just happened in the movie. Okay, this isn't your typical Marvel movie.
Maybe that guy just represented their general fear.
Yeah.
He was just going to shoot into them in general.
I mean, without God, how do you tell right from wrong? How do you know which person, how do you know where you're aiming?
I think that when the mobster shot into the crowd of our protagonists at the end of the movie, after they believed, the man with the gun represented the ironic podcaster who would try to tear down the Christian movie.
Yeah.
And all of them represented the actors in a Christian movie. God is sort of like the engineer of the podcast. He's watching the levels to make sure you don't clip, you know?
Yeah.
And
but
if
he
you
can't
do,
make you.
He sends you to hell.
Yeah, a little girl gets shot in the stomach.
We love it. Don't you just love that? Like,
I mean, every time I thought that this movie could not do something, it did it. Like, you didn't think, like, most of the movies like this, they'll do the miracle, but you won't actually see it. They'll leave it a little ambiguous. So there is, like, some of that, like, maybe his leg did grow back. Maybe he was faking it. Like, maybe he had a blanket on or something.
right.
But no, we actually see the man's leg grow back.
Like pulsing and growing. It's so weird.
And it's still debated for the rest of the movie whether or not it happened. Although you're kind of like, okay, we all fucking saw it happen. We all know that it's real.
Yeah.
So it from right off the bat, the message of the movie is that miracles are real. They do happen. And then it ends with a fucking girl a 9-year-old girl getting shot in the stomach. Just when you think they won't take it to the next level.
There were so many good moments. Like, one of my favorite parts, even though the special effect wasn't as gratuitous, is when Brian meets the woman crying in church, and she's crying because her newborn baby son is blind. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he tells her to go home and pray for the baby. And she does go home.
He shows her the statue first.
Oh, yeah.
Which we got to talk about that statue.
Yeah. He shows her a statue of Jesus getting his,
It looks like he's getting his D wet. But yeah, so he shows the woman this statue of Jesus healing a blind man. And then she goes home and prays. And then they're just crying over the baby. And the baby's crying ostensibly because the baby is blind. And as we know,
whenever I close my eyeyes, I'm just wailing.
Such is the human experience.
Every time I blink, I'm in tears.
All of a sudden, they're like, and they look down at the baby, and the baby just had his eyes open.
He's laughing
and was smiling, reaching for his parents that he recognized so clearly.
Which was like, now they didn't show the baby before the baby was blind. Now, we all know, like, blind people can open their eyes.
We all know what a blind baby looks like.
We all know.
No, just hollow eye sockets.
God.
But this baby, like, it was sort of implied that the baby had its eyes closed. And then, like, when they prayed.
Well, it was laying on its stomach was the thing.
Yeah.
I thought. And then.
Maybe that's the problem. They just never flipped the baby over.
Yeah, you got to flip the baby over. Don't forget to flip the baby. Every hour and a half, you have to flip your baby.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it gets too well done.
Yeah, only be done on one side.
Yeah.
No good. Blindness.
The eyes are very weak, but the ass is incredible. All right. Well, we should probably say what happens with the girl who got shot in the stomach.
Oh, yeah, she lived. They prayed for her. She's fine.
Yeah, they prayed. The nemesis newscaster, what was his name? I cannot find that. Who cares? Earlier in the movie, he's shown praying at the grave of his dead wife.
He's not even. Well, he's like praying to spite God.
Oh, you're right. You're right. He's not praying. He's just.
What does he say when he looks up at the sky?
How could you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had that classic Christian movie moment of a person, an atheist, looking at a grave and then looking up at the sky and saying, how could you do this to me? Because, of course, every atheist in every Christian film only thinks in relation to God.
Yeah.
Like, their identity as an atheist is like, Christian movies basically frame atheism as like
resentment of God.
Right.
Not like being like, okay, there is no God at all.
Yes.
It's like, I hate you, God.
Yeah, we
Come
all
down
know,
here and fight me.
We all know God exists. It's just that I personally choose not to believe that.
Well, the people who make these movies can't even fathom that like somebody would just not believe in God.
Yeah.
It's like I think you brought this up, Scott, one time when we were watching Last Ounce of Courage, because they changed the winter play to like the space play or something.
Right.
And you said something like, well, like you have to believe in something.
Right.
You can't just not believe in anything. You have to believe like aliens are angels. You can't just believe that there are no angels. Like you can't just not worship. You have to worship something.
Yeah, and similarly with the miracle too, they couldn't comprehend. It was like, if this thing really did happen and isn't a hoax, then it's God. It's the Christian God that our church believes in.
That example you brought up with the Christian play in that movie definitely illustrates it well, because like in that setup, they just revamped the entire Christmas story. They just very subtly changed all the nouns to like alien or space related things. Like
so it's really just, you believe in Christianity, you just use different words.
Yeah. No, there's Christianity is the only option for how to view the world.
And after seeing I Believe it.
If you watch this, you will become a Christian. Like, I don't think I can say that necessarily about any of the other films we watched. Like, you might like them, you might hate them, but this film will actually cause you to become a Christian.
I renounced my Jehovah's Witness.
Yes. Earlier,
I'm taking on Christianity.
You may remember from earlier episodes that we have all decided to convert to Jehovah's Witness because we concluded that was the best denomination of Christianity, which is definitely true to an extent, but this one made me Protestant again.
Yeah. I personally didn't realize that real magic was allowed in Christian movies. So this is the best version yet. This is the best version of Christianity.
Yes. No, this was really like the Harry Potter Christianity. Like everything
precocious
from
little boy.
The precocious little boy with glasses, mind you.
And he's so right about everything, and he's just inquisitive and so smart, and people are like, don't do things the way you do them.
Yeah. There's a villain whose name is never spoken.
True.
The man in the limousine or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of does have a Voldemort look to him, too.
Yeah. And just like Harry Potter, it ends with like Dumbledore telling everybody to text their friends that magic is real.
Oh my God. This movie literally ended with a text your friends moment.
I'm not a big fan of texting. Everybody seems to be doing it these days, except for me. Take out your cell phone, if you have it. Text 2 words, 2 simple words to somebody. I believe. If you do this, you're making a stand for Jesus Christ. And make it now while you still can.
That's my favorite trope in Christian movies,
It's
which
the
I feel
best.
like that was only done in Let There Be Light, but there are lots of Christian movies where it's like, if you have a friend who's like thinking about doing this, go out and preach to them or whatever. It'll end with like a little text crawl that says,
They
like,
asked
go
you to
out.
text God's Not Dead in one of the God's Not Dead movies as well.
Yeah, in the first God's Not Dead.
Yeah, text everyone you know, God's not dead.
Yeah,
Just
they
apropos
like
of
say it
nothing.
during the. I think Michael Tate says it during the Newsboys concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course in Let There Be Light, there's the what are you supposed to text? Just LBTL?
Hashtag. I think hashtag Let There Be Light.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And yeah, this movie wants you to say I believe. So they've really understood these movies that they should be like calls to action, you know? And as we all know, Christians love internet activism. They think it's like Christians think that symbolic activism is like the deepest and most profound thing you can do. Like at the end of Let There Be Light, when they all aim their flashlights at the sky in order to
defeat
fight
ISIS.
ISIS. Yeah. And in this
My
case,
eyes.
and in this one, it's just, you know, you just need to believe.
Yeah. It's really amazing.
Thank you, Screensaver Entertainment.
Yeah, this movie was the production company that made this movie was Screensaver Entertainment. Did we? That was when we found out that they had some video game ties. Was when we looked up the other things they did, right?
Just the director.
Yeah,
not the production company. But it also listed him as director of a bunch of video games, so I think he might be making some stuff up on his IMDb.
Do you ever think that we're God's video game?
I just kind of like started thinking one day that maybe like we were just The Sims, basically. That like this is just a video game that's very, very real.
Do you ever feel like you're The Sims and God took away the ladder to the pool?
Yeah. sometimes. But, maybe God is the latter.
Wow.
When you put it that way.
Unfortunately, you can't tell your landlord that
they got
it's
kicked
just
out.
a video game.
They got evicted from their
Oh, yeah, they
property
did.
because
Because they live in a video game.
It's the apartment manager.
The apartment manager. Hello.
Hi, can we help you?
I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to move. We are not prepared to deal with these protesters. There is a public disturbance clause right here in this contract, which legally allows me to terminate your lease at any time.
Yeah, you know what? They never said. We never got to the point in the movie where they actually moved, but it seemed pretty clear
Or
they were
allowed to move back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the church was full at the end, but it was never, they never had any sort of indication that the Miracle Boy wasn't proven to be a hoax, which apparently the evil newscaster did at one point.
Yeah.
And they were kicked out of their apartment.
Yeah, well, after our main protagonist Simon Weber found out that his son Brian was the mystery Miracle Boy, the opposing newscaster picked up on the story and tried to spin it that it was collusion on the part of KLA and Simon Weber to create a fake story that everyone was in on it. That part is never really resolved. I mean, I think that sort of feeds into the Christian persecutional thing because in their reality, everyone's protesting them, everyone's against them. So it sort of lets them leave on this righteous note. It's just understood everyone in LA hates us.
Yeah.
I can relate because everyone in LA hates me too, but I still live here. Fuck them.
And I think it's not going to get better for them because, what's the ex-evil newscaster going to say? Oh, well, the Miracle Boy saved my daughter, and I'm definitely not in on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Miracle Boy saved my daughter, saved a mob boss's son, a veteran, and a baby. That's the body count. There was that point on the other newscast where they tried to test God and they brought out a girl with, I think they said muscular dystrophy. And they were like, well, can the Miracle Boy heal this girl? And, they tried to have that gotcha moment.
Why don't we see how all this prayer stuff works, shall we? I'd like to invite onto the stage Angelina. Angelina, welcome. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good. Now, Angelina has spinal muscular atrophy, and she has lost the ability to walk. Brian, do you believe that God can make her walk again?
We came on your show to truthfully tell Brian's story and not to be ambushed, and certainly not to perform miracles.
It's okay, Daddy. I can explain.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Brookwood, I don't understand how it all works, but I believe that God could heal my nearsightedness if he wanted to. He could also heal Angelina. God can pop out a mountain range in downtown Los Angeles, but no one can tell him what to do and when to do it.
Which, of course,
he
didn't
just
work.
used it to try to convert her instead.
Yeah, which it seemed like it worked, and
she was smiling.
I would have liked to have seen it in the credits, though, come up partway through the credits. You see, she's at church too.
Oh yeah,
I would have appreciated that.
That would have been tight.
And then they all joined the Avengers.
Yeah. And then I don't really understand what happened to the Avengers, but I want the 9-year-old kid to disappear into pixels and go to the sky. That was the only thing I know that happened in the Avengers, and I would have really enjoyed seeing that in this movie as well. I just, as we're talking about this, just all these beautiful moments are just coming up at me, these little things. And one thing that I really liked was after the news, the Nemesis newscaster does the gotcha thing with the girl, brings out the girl with muscular dystrophy, and they have the newscast, and the newscast is over, and it seems like things are going really badly for Brian and his father Simon. The devil says to the Nemesis newscaster, he's like, well, ostensibly the devil, he's like, you did a bad job. Like, you were too mean to the 9-year-olds. Like, now everyone loves him more. Which that was never really explained too. It was like,
didn't they get evicted right after that? Right after he was like, everyone loves the kid more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there were just so many points like that where these logical things happen that were just not quite right. Like how in the beginning of the movie, the father, like Brian's father, is set up to be the one who he's gonna have to like prove God to.
Yeah.
You know?
Brian, are you reading a Bible? If your dad sees this, he's gonna be so disappointed in you.
But Mom, it's super amazing.
Didn't I tell you not to read the Bible?
Dad, it's super interesting.
But then as soon as the miracle stories start happening and KLA starts reporting on it, the father's all of a sudden like, well, I mean, you know, this is news. Like, we got to report on the news. Like, there's no skepticism.
He's an honest reporter. He just calls it like he sees it.
Yeah, and the producer is the one that's like staunch atheist.
We've got to tone down this God stuff. I mean, we're newsmen. We're not evangelists.
It's hard to tell people about a leg growing back without bringing God into it.
Look, I'm getting pressure from above not to become your local Christian news channel. If we're not careful, we might wind up encouraging people to go to church, and that would be bad. Real bad.
He's like the only atheist in the movie.
He's like, my boss has a boss has a boss.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of, you like think that they're gonna make the devil guy the head of like the newscast or whatever, but nothing is resolved in this movie.
Any other just like little moments like that sticking out? Like,
I liked the strongman poster. That was like his favorite superhero.
Oh yeah, there was his favorite superhero was a fictitious character called Strongman.
But Mom, Strongman can't raise people from the dead. Jesus is way more powerful than him.
All the pictures in the house are arranged like right next to each other. No space between, and they're all in like one long line down their hallway.
Can we talk about the look of this movie? Because we didn't really reflect on that after we watched it, and I thought it was so important to the movie in some way. Like, everything just looked so uncanny. Like, some stylistic references we pointed to were Neil Breen.
For the news scenes,
specifically for the news and green screen scenes, definitely. But just in general, like the sets in the movie, everything was so clinical, like so clean and so clinical that it almost reminded me of like a Scientology movie or a Jehovah's Witness movie, you know, where it's like,
it looked like they would like rent out sets and then not hire a production designer. Like, they just be like, okay, this is the bedroom. We need a bed and sheets and like a nightstand, and that's it. Like, they don't think that like we should make it look like a kid's room and not like we shot this in IKEA.
The kids' room had an iMac, like a very big telescope, and a framed poster of the superhero Strongman.
Yeah,
and that was
like looked like it was drawn by a child.
It's like blue-gray walls, just drab.
Yeah. And the kid was like, it's getting late. I think I should go to bed. And like, just like this super uncanny, just like, I don't know, just nothing had any.
I mean, this is the kind of kid who walks by a church, reads one sign, and all of a sudden he's a devout Christian.
Yeah.
So
a good kid.
It's not surprising that one day he walked by the comic store and got really into Strongman.
Right.
He's wearing a tie the whole time and like a nice shirt and like was like a vest or something. So you just like naturally assume in the back of your head somewhere that's what he has to wear to school. But then when he gets to school, nobody else is dressed like that.
Oh, right. I didn't even notice that. No, this kid is a fucking loser. Like, just 100%. Like, this kid's a nerd. Listen, don't be a nerd. Everyone knows God likes jocks better. That's in the Bible. Do you think it was nerds?
I believe.
Do you think it was nerds that were bringing God 500 foreskins of the Philistines? No, that was jocks. Do you think a nerd beat Goliath? No, that was a jock.
Our mightiest jock.
Different times, you know.
Different times nowadays.
The meek shall inherit the earth, Ash.
True. Yeah, I think I have to work on that one. The jock shall. If you read it in the original Hebrew, it says the jock
Old
shall
Testament
inherit the
was
earth.
jocks.
Yeah.
So many translations.
Well, because the Old and New Testament, like in the New Testament, you know, it was more of a jock God, and in the New Testament, Wait,
It's
in
a
the Old
nerd
Testament,
god.
it was more of a jock god. In the New Testament, it was more of a nerd god.
Yeah.
That's
You
a
think?
He's all
fundamental.
about gaming.
But
He wears
Jesus
a
was a-
Captain America shirt.
Jesus was a carpenter. He's walking around out in the sun all the time.
True.
He's a surfer.
Yeah, a jock.
A jock.
Damn, we can't figure this out. If you can figure this out, leave a review in the comments section. How does
Follow us.
how does
Here's what you do.
podcast
Follow
work?
us at Boys Bible Study. If we follow you back, you can DM us.
And then text "I believe" to every single person you know, and then we'll answer.
Yeah, but keep in mind we only follow one.
And keep in mind, we're not the one doing any of the healing. We're just podcasters. We're not doing any of the miracles.
We're just messengers.
Even if we're around when the miracles are happening,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean we're doing them. Like we're just a conduit.
We're not Pinhead. We're just casual Cenobites.
What about Heaven Raiser?
Whoa.
There was an angel in one of the Hellraisers.
Really? I don't know if I got that far.
It was the one I was telling you about where it was like done like this crappy, like gritty, like Saw type murder mystery thing, and then they kind of threw in a little bit of Hellraiser, and it turns out it was like an angel who was like telling the guy to kill people, and Pinhead kills the angel. Pinhead and this angel both work for God. And like it was against the rules for Pinhead to kill the angel, even though she was like murdering people on Earth. I don't know. It was real weird. I just
it tried to set
got,
up that
like, a
Pinhead
synopsis
was
of it.
like a good character.
Yeah, he's like an anti-hero, and then his punishment is to be
really cool.
Yeah, to be reincarnated on Earth as a homeless person on Skid Row. And he
Oh.
like wakes up on Skid Row and he's like screaming in agony because he's like, no.
Wow.
Is this like Hellraiser 9?
Yeah, I think this is the most recent one.
Oh, the most recent one, Hellraiser
Yeah.
Judgment.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one where you posted the picture of Pinhead and he looks like really
like-
funny?
That's Hellraiser Revelations.
That's Hellraiser
Yeah.
Revelations. I've only
His
seen up
eyes
to
were, like,
3, which
bugging
is
out.
a great movie.
The first 3 are superior to all the others.
3's the one where he kills the cops, right? He like whips the chains around the cops.
Yeah. It's the one. The most memorable thing in that is when he goes to the rock club and it's just like destroying everyone.
That part's great. My favorite part is when he like he like holds his arms out like he's on the cross and like turns his head. That part's fucking sick.
Oh yeah, because he goes into the church and there's just no effect on him.
It's great.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I love it.
Well,
I guess because he works for God. I
Yeah.
didn't realize.
This has been the Hellraiser podcast.
This is important. No, we're comparing religious cinema throughout.
Yeah.
Like I think Hellraiser is a very religious and important piece of cinema. Like I think that has a lot to tell students of the word.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to show your kids Hellraiser. I think they should start distributing Hellraiser on christiancinema.com.
That'd be a good idea. I mean, it's scary. Makes me not want to go to hell.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
What else from this movie? I love how Nordic everyone was.
Yeah.
Like his name was
German
like
guy was the dad.
Well, it's unclear. So hold on. What last name is? Oh yeah, you're right.
Lindquist?
Matt Lindquist was the dad. I keep thinking
Yeah.
that the director was the star.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to think what nationality is Paretsky.
I think it's
Polish.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
That'd be my
Wow.
guess.
Now we know what it's like when Polish people make a movie.
Yeah, how many Polish people does it take to make a movie?
I can find no evidence of Paretsky being a common last name in any nationality. When I Google Paretsky, the way it's spelled, the only people that come up are this director. I think I've stumbled
You
onto
think it's
something.
a fake name?
Interesting.
I think that they are Nordic aliens. Like, you know about the Nordic aliens, like the ones that just look like super white people with blonde hair. That's like a race of alien that's commonly
What if they're
discussed.
angels?
Really?
What if they're angels? I mean, that would make sense because this was honestly one of the most perfect movies I've ever seen. Like, there was so much to it.
There you go.
Oh,
How much proof do you need? The movie exists.
Yeah.
Wasn't the tagline for this movie "Miracles Happen"?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That was, if I'm looking at the DVD art right now. The DVD art looks just wonderful. Like, it has the nerdy looking sun with like a ray of light beam just like illuminating his face, just shining through him, and his atheist newscaster father holding a microphone and looking surly in front of his news van. There's the church in the background. Anything else about this movie before we wrap it up?
All I can think about is Hellraiser.
What do you rate it?
Yeah, that was good.
I'll give
what do we rate
5
this movie?
pinheads out of 5 pinheads.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, this was definitely the puzzle box of Christian films. This was just a really beautiful rhapsody of sounds and colors and symbols.
Yeah, I can't even give it a rating because it's not fair to it, because it's on a different level than the other movies we've rated so far.
No, it's true.
Great. This was by far the best we've watched for this series.
Yeah, I would go as far as say, I mean, for me, it's a tough comparison between this and I would say probably the top 3 Christian movies for me of all time, some of which we've talked about on here. Let There Be Light, Last Ounce of Courage, and this movie.
Yeah.
Were probably the top 3 for me.
Goddamn, how many movies does a mobster come out of a coma and the first thing they eat is lasagna and breadsticks?
They didn't even do that in Gotti.
Yeah.
That was...
like when I think a movie's really good, I might want to give it 5 out of 5 stars. I feel like this movie gave me 5 out of 5 stars after I finished watching it.
I would say this movie, I would rate this movie endless breadsticks.
Wow.
All right.
But yeah, well, once again, thanks for tuning in. If you want to check out this movie online, go on christiancinema.com. And just so you all know, you can continue to follow our episodes at boysbiblestudy.com and follow us on Twitter at boysbiblestudy.
Bye-bye. I will pray for you.
We'll pray for you. Don't grow another leg till we come back, okay?
Text all your
Bye.
friends and family, I believe.
Yeah, text them Boys Bible Study.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you take me high with your love, and I'd rather than be told. I need you to wash away my sin. Open back to let you give me a sin, and I give you all I got. Non-stop, oh my God, I'm yours,
God can pop out a mountain range in downtown Los Angeles.